The woman's forehead pressed against the cold glass of the ticket window. Her reflection stared back at her, hollow and ghost-like under the dying fluorescent lights of Union Station. 16 hours. That's all she had left. The clerk's voice cut through the noise like a blade. I'm sorry, but the last discounted seat just sold. Her hands trembled against the counter. Please. I have to get to Boston tonight. My daughter needs me to. The words died in her throat. Because how could she explain that in 16 hours, if she wasn't standing in front of a caseworker with proof of stable housing, she would lose her child forever? The clerk's expression didn't change. The next available seat is tomorrow at 6 a.m. Or you could upgrade to first class. There's one seat left on the 11 p.m. to Boston. Leaves in 20 minutes. How much? $340. The number hit her like a fist to the stomach. She had $117 to her name. The rest was for the motel room in Boston. The address she needed to prove she could provide for her 5-year-old daughter. I can't. Her voice cracked. I don't have that. Next in line, please. Welcome back to another powerful story, my beloved listeners. Kindly tell where you're watching from and what time it is where you're at. If you're new here, prepare for a story of betrayal, unexpected love, and what truly makes a family. Drop everything and listen closely. This tale of heartbreak and redemption might just change how you view love and family forever. Maya Reyes stumbled away from the ticket window, her worn canvas backpack digging into her shoulders. Around her, the station pulsed with life. Businessmen in wool coats scrolled through phones. Couples laughed over coffee cups. A family herded toward Platform 7, the smallest child dragging a stuffed elephant. She found a bench near the restrooms and sank onto it. Her phone showed no service. Of course. Even her phone plan had been downgraded to almost nothing. When was the last time she'd eaten? Yesterday's lunch. This morning's gas station coffee. She closed her eyes. Just for a second. Just to stop the world from spinning. The memory came unbidden. 3 months ago. Flames eating through her apartment building. The social worker's firm hands pulling Iris from her arms. Her daughter's small voice, terrified and confused. Mama, when are you coming back? Maya had promised. Soon, baby. So soon. But soon had stretched into weeks, then months. Double shifts at the printing factory. Sleeping on friends' couches. Saving every penny for a security deposit. For a chance to prove to the state that she could be a mother again. And today, finally, she'd had enough. A regular customer at the cafe where she sometimes picked up extra shifts had left her $100 bill. Just like that. As if he'd somehow sensed her desperation. It had seemed like a sign from the universe. But miracles, Maya was learning, had expiration dates. She pulled out her phone again, staring at the last photo of Iris. 5 years old. Gap-toothed smile. Holding a dandelion like it was the most precious thing in the world. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Announcements echoed through the cavernous space. Somewhere, a baby cried. Maya pressed her fist to her mouth to keep from screaming. Excuse me. The voice was low, careful. The kind of voice that knew how to approach something fragile. Maya's eyes snapped open. A man stood before her. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal overcoat that probably cost more than she made in 2 months. His dark hair was slightly wind-tousled, and his eyes were the strangest shade of amber. Almost gold in the harsh station lighting. Are you all right? The question was gentle. Too gentle. Maya straightened, forcing her expression into something neutral. I'm fine. The man's gaze flickered to her white-knuckled grip on her phone. To her backpack with the broken zipper held together by safety pins. To the dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. Forgive me, he said quietly, but you don't look fine. Heat crawled up Maya's neck. Look, I don't need. I overheard. He interrupted gently. At the ticket window. You need to get to Boston. Shame flooded through her, sharp and acidic. I'll figure it out. I'm sure you will. He tilted his head slightly. But I have a first-class ticket on the 11 p.m. to Boston. Private compartment. More space than one person needs. His pause was deliberate. You could join me. Maya stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? I'm offering you a seat. No strings. You need to get to Boston. I'm going to Boston. It seems like a solvable problem. Every instinct Maya had screamed danger. Strange men didn't offer help without wanting something in return. She'd learned that lesson young and hard. But then she thought of Iris. Of her daughter's small voice on their last phone call. When are you coming, Mama? I miss you. Why would you do that? Her voice was sharp with suspicion. The man was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, because once, a long time ago, someone helped me when I needed it most. And I've spent years trying to pay that forward. There was something in his voice. Something that sounded like truth. Like lived pain. I don't even know your name. He extended a hand. Julian Winters. Maya hesitated before shaking it. His palm was warm, his grip steady. Maya Reyes. Well, Maya Reyes. Julian's mouth curved in the faintest hint of a smile. Our train boards in 15 minutes. What do you say? Maya looked at this stranger. This impossibly kind, impossibly foolish stranger. And made a choice she'd probably regret. Okay. The first-class compartment was obscene in its luxury. Leather seats that looked like they reclined into beds. A small table with a reading lamp. Paneled walls the color of rich mahogany. A window that overlooked the tracks, where the city lights were already beginning to blur into motion. Maya stood in the doorway, suddenly acutely aware of her thrift store jeans and the coffee stain on her sleeve. Sit anywhere. Julian's voice came from behind her as he set his bag on the overhead rack. His bag was expensive, minimalist, the kind that probably had a designer name she wouldn't recognize. Maya chose the seat farthest from him, tucking herself against the window. Julian took the opposite seat, not crowding her, giving her space. The train pulled out of the station with a low rumble. The rhythm of the tracks settled into a steady hum. Outside the window, the city gave way to suburbs, then to darkness punctuated by distant lights. Maya kept her gaze fixed on the passing world, trying to ignore the weight of Julian's presence across from her. He'd removed his coat, revealing a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his forearms. He was reading something on a tablet, his expression calm, undemanding. Minutes passed. The silence stretched, but it wasn't hostile. It was almost comfortable. You don't have to talk, Julian said quietly, not looking up from his tablet. If you'd rather rest. Maya glanced at him. Why are you going to Boston? He looked up. Business. I have meetings all week. What kind of business? A slight pause. I run a foundation. Philanthropic work, mostly. Maya's eyebrows rose. So you're rich. Julian's mouth quirked. I do all right. And you just give money away. I invest in causes I believe in. Education, housing, support for families in crisis. His amber eyes held hers. Things that matter. Maya felt something twist in her chest. Must be nice. It's complicated, Julian admitted. Money doesn't solve everything. But it solves some things. Like train tickets. Maya said quietly. Like train tickets. Julian agreed. Silence settled again, but it felt different now. Less hostile. Almost comfortable. What's in Boston? Julian asked after a while. Maya's hands tightened in her lap. My daughter. Something shifted in Julian's expression. How old? 5. And she's in Boston while you're. It's temporary. Maya said quickly. Too quickly. I'm getting her back tomorrow. Julian didn't press, but she felt his gaze on her. Steady, assessing, seeing. I'm sure she misses you. He said softly. Maya's throat closed. Yeah. She turned back to the window, blinking hard. She would not cry in front of this stranger. She wouldn't. But exhaustion was a relentless thing. It pulled at her eyelids, dragged at her limbs. The train's rhythm was hypnotic, the seat impossibly comfortable after weeks of sleeping on couches and air mattresses. Her head dipped forward. She jerked awake, straightened. You should sleep, Julian said. We won't arrive until morning. I'm fine. Maya. His voice was gentle. When was the last time you slept more than a few hours? She couldn't remember. Her eyes drifted closed again. This time, she didn't fight it. The darkness was warm and soft and forgiving. And for the first time in months, Maya Reyes let herself fall. Somewhere in the space between waking and sleeping, Maya became aware of warmth. Not the warmth of blankets, but the warmth of another person. The train rocked gently. Outside, the world was black. Inside, there was only the soft glow of Julian's reading light and the steady rhythm of his breathing. At some point, without realizing it, Maya had slumped sideways. Her head had found the solid plane of Julian's shoulder. His expensive coat smelled like cedar and something clean she couldn't name. She should move. Should pull away. Should be mortified. But sleep was pulling her under like a tide, and for once, Maya was too tired to fight it. Julian shifted slightly, adjusting so she was more comfortable. She felt him drape his coat over her shoulders like a blanket. Rest. His voice was barely a whisper. You're safe. And against all logic, all reason, all experience, Maya believed him. She woke to the smell of coffee. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the soft morning light filtering through the train window. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The train. Julian. The fact that she'd been using a complete stranger as a pillow for God knew how long. Maya shot upright, her face burning with mortification. Julian's coat slid off her shoulders and into her lap. Oh my God. She gasped, yanking away. I'm so sorry. Julian looked up from his tablet, completely unfazed. His hair was slightly mussed, like he'd run his hand through it a few times, but otherwise he looked as composed as ever. It's all right, he said simply. You needed the rest. Maya stared at the small damp spot on his shoulder where she'd apparently been drooling. I didn't mean to. I know. Julian set his tablet aside and pressed the call button above their seats. A moment later, a train attendant appeared. Could we have some water, please? And coffee. He glanced at Maya. How do you take it? I can get my own coffee. I know. Julian said. But I don't mind. The attendant's gaze flicked between them with knowing curiosity. Black. Maya said quietly. With 1 sugar. The attendant nodded and disappeared. How long was I asleep? Maya asked, still trying to process the fact that she'd spent hours draped over a billionaire like he was a body pillow. About 3 hours. 3 hours. Maya buried her face in her hands. You should have woken me. Why? Because I was drooling on a stranger's expensive coat. Julian glanced down at his shoulder where there was, indeed, a small damp spot. It's seen worse. Despite everything, Maya laughed. It was a short, startled sound, but it felt good. Like something inside her was remembering how. Julian smiled. A real smile this time, warm and unguarded. There. That's better. The attendant returned with 2 bottles of water and 2 cups of coffee. She offered Julian a smile that was just a bit too warm. Here you go, Mr. Winters. Thank you, Julian said, taking both cups and handing one to Maya. The attendant lingered for a moment before leaving. Maya wrapped her hands around the warm cup, taking a slow sip. The bitter liquid did little to erase the exhaustion, but it was something. Do you ride this route often? She asked, realizing she knew almost nothing about this man. Julian exhaled a soft chuckle. More times than I care to admit. Work keeps me in the air more than on the ground. That sounds exhausting. It is. Julian admitted. But it's worth it. The foundation work. He nodded. Maya studied him over the rim of her coffee cup. There was something about him. Something just out of reach. What made you start it? The foundation. Julian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I lost someone. A long time ago. Someone I couldn't save. The foundation is my way of making sure other people don't have to feel that helplessness. Maya's chest tightened. I'm sorry. Julian nodded, his gaze distant. It was a long time ago. But you don't really get over something like that. No. Maya agreed softly. You don't. They sat in silence for a while, the train carrying them through the awakening landscape. Outside, the sky was streaked with pale pink and gold. "You have a kid, don't you?" Julian said suddenly. Maya nearly choked on her coffee. "Excuse me." Julian smirked at her reaction. "You kept mentioning school fees in your sleep. And you have that look. That I haven't slept in 6 years and caffeine is the only thing keeping me alive look." Maya snorted. "Okay, that's fair." She reached for her phone and pulled up a picture of Iris. "This is my son." She stopped, shaking her head. "I mean, daughter. Iris. She just turned 5. She handed Julian the phone, watching as he studied the picture with surprising focus. Iris at 4, grinning gap-toothed, holding a dandelion. "She's got your eyes," Julian said softly. Maya smiled. "Yeah. And her dad's stubbornness." Julian glanced at her. "You two still together?" She shook her head. "No. We divorced a couple years ago. It was for the best." Julian nodded as if he understood. "That's never easy." "No." Maya agreed. "It's not." A beat of silence passed. Then Julian leaned back, stretching slightly. "I don't have kids. But my sister has 2. I see that same exhausted look on her face every time I visit." "So you have siblings?" "Just one. Younger sister. She's a doctor. Works too much. Just like me." Maya smiled. "So it runs in the family." "Apparently," Julian mused. There was something about the way he spoke. Calm, measured, but guarded. As if he'd learned to be careful with his words. Maya didn't push. She wasn't sure why she was even interested. But something about him intrigued her. She had spent the past few years surviving. She hadn't had time for small talk with handsome strangers in tailored suits. But tonight, on this train, everything felt different. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Or maybe, just maybe, it was Julian Winters himself. The announcement came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be beginning our descent into Boston shortly. Please return to your seats and ensure your seat belts are fastened." Maya's stomach twisted. It was almost time. She glanced at Julian, who had returned to his book but whose attention clearly wasn't on the pages. His fingers tapped absently against the leather cover. Finally, he turned to her. "Do you have a ride from the train station?" Maya blinked. No. I was just going to take a cab." Julian nodded as if he'd expected that answer. "Let me give you my driver's number. He can take you wherever you need to go." Maya frowned. "That's not necessary." "I know," Julian said. "But I'd like to anyway." She hesitated. This was crossing a line. But as she stared into Julian's unwavering amber eyes, she felt something she hadn't in a long time. "Safe." She exhaled and nodded. "Okay." Julian pulled out a sleek business card and handed it to her. She glanced at the elegant lettering. Julian Winters. The Celeste Foundation. Her breath hitched. She knew that name. Callahan Global Holdings was one thing, but the Celeste Foundation was massive. One of the most well-known philanthropic organizations in the country. Emma slowly looked up at him. "Business consulting. Hair." Julian had the grace to look slightly amused. "I may have understated that part." Maya shook her head, half exasperated, half intrigued. She should have been intimidated. But all she could think was, what the hell did I just get myself into? The train pulled into Boston South Station just as dawn broke over the city. The sky was streaked with pink and gold, the buildings casting long shadows across the awakening streets. Julian helped Maya with her bag, insisting on carrying it despite her protests. The station was quieter than last night, but still alive with early morning travelers. Coffee shops were opening. Cleaners pushed carts down the platforms. "I have a car meeting me," Julian said as they exited the station. "Let me drop you wherever you need to go." Maya hesitated. She'd already accepted so much from this stranger. "Julian, I can't." "Please," he said quietly. "Let me do this one last thing." She nodded, too tired to argue. The car was sleek and black, the driver professional and silent. Maya gave an address in South Boston. The motel where she'd booked a room. As they drove through the city, Julian asked, "What time is your meeting with your daughter?" 10 o'clock. Maya said. At the Department of Children and Families office. Julian frowned. DCF. Maya looked down at her hands. Iris has been in temporary foster care. I'm getting her back today. Julian was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Maya, I had stable housing. She said quickly, the words tumbling out. A good job. But there was a fire. And everything fell apart. And the state said I couldn't provide for her, so they placed her temporarily until I could prove. Her voice cracked. Julian's expression was unreadable. And if something had gone wrong? If you hadn't made this train? Maya's hands shook. I don't let myself think about that. Julian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said softly, You're stronger than you know. Maya laughed bitterly. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't the absence of fear. Julian said. It's moving forward despite it. The car pulled up to the motel. A dingy building with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign. Maya's stomach sank. This was what she was offering Iris. This was the stable housing she'd fought so hard for. I can help, Julian said suddenly. Maya, let me. No. Her voice was firm. I appreciate everything you've done. But this, Iris, this is something I have to do myself. Julian studied her, then nodded slowly. I understand. Maya reached for the door handle, then paused. Thank you, Julian. For everything. Maya. He pulled out another business card, pressed it into her hand. If you need anything. Anything at all. She looked down at the card. This one had a phone number handwritten on the back. Her throat tightened. You named the foundation after her. After your sister. Julian's expression softened. Yes. Maya met his eyes. She's lucky to have a brother like you. Julian's voice was quiet. And Iris is lucky to have a mother like you. Maya stepped out of the car, clutching the two business cards in her hand. As the car pulled away, she watched it disappear into the morning traffic. She had no idea that in less than 24 hours, everything she thought she knew about her life would shatter. Because sometimes the universe doesn't just give second chances. Sometimes it rewrites your entire story. Maya checked into the motel, showered, changed into the one clean outfit she'd packed. At 9:45, she took a ride-share to the DCF office, her heart hammering the entire way. The building was grey and institutional. Inside, a receptionist directed her to the third floor. Maya climbed the stairs. Couldn't afford to waste money on anything. Not even an elevator ride. The waiting area had plastic chairs and motivational posters. Other parents sat in various states of hope and despair. A woman clutched a folder of documents. A man stared at the floor, his leg bouncing nervously. Maya sat, gripping her own folder. Lease agreement. Employment verification. Character references. Everything the state had required. At 10:03, a caseworker appeared. Middle-aged, tired-looking, carrying a clipboard. Maya Reyes. Yes. Come with me. They walked down a hallway to a small room with a table, chairs, and a window that overlooked a parking lot. And there, sitting at the table with a coloring book and crayons, was Iris. Her baby. Her entire world. Mama. Iris's face lit up like the sun breaking through clouds. She launched herself across the room, and Maya caught her, holding her so tight she was afraid she might break her. Hi, baby. Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. Hi. I'm here. I'm here. Iris pulled back, her small hands cupping Maya's face. I missed you so much. I missed you too, sweetheart. So much. The caseworker cleared her throat. Ms. Reyes, if we could review the paperwork. Maya reluctantly released Iris, though she kept her daughter close, one arm around her shoulders. The caseworker spread the documents across the table. Lease agreement for the motel's weekly rental, which technically qualified as an apartment. Employment verification from the printing factory. Character references from her former landlord and a co-worker. Everything is in order. The caseworker said after what felt like an eternity. Iris can be released back into your custody today. We'll follow up in 30 days to ensure everything remains stable. Maya nodded, barely able to process the words through the overwhelming relief. 30 minutes later, they were walking out of the building together. Iris's small hand in hers. Her daughter chattering about the foster family's cat, about a friend she'd made at school, about everything and nothing. Maya listened, soaking in every word, every inflection, every precious sound. They took a bus to the motel. Iris pressed her face against the window, pointing out dogs and interesting buildings. Inside the motel room, Iris explored like it was an adventure. She jumped on the bed, investigated the tiny bathroom, discovered the vending machine in the hallway. Maya ordered pizza. They ate sitting cross-legged on the bed, watching cartoons on the small television. And for a few hours, everything was perfect. But that night, after Iris fell asleep, curled up in the center of the bed with her worn stuffed rabbit, Maya sat on the floor with her laptop balanced on her knees. She couldn't stop thinking about Julian. About the way he'd described his sister. She had these eyes. Violet blue. Like storm clouds over the ocean. I've never seen that color on anyone else. Maya looked at Iris, sleeping peacefully. In the soft lamplight, her daughter's eyes were closed, dark lashes against her cheeks. Maya had always thought Iris had blue eyes. Her ex-husband had blue eyes. She'd assumed that's where they came from. But now, remembering the fluorescent lights of the DCF office, remembering the way the harsh lighting had hit Iris's face when she'd looked up, Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. Because in that light, Iris's eyes hadn't looked simply blue. They'd looked violet blue. Like storm clouds over the ocean. Maya's hands trembled as she typed into the search bar. Julian Winter's sister. The results flooded in. Articles. Obituaries. Memorial pages. And there, a news article from 23 years ago. Local family mourns loss of daughter, 6. There was a photo. A family portrait. Julian as a boy, maybe 12, standing beside his parents. And in the center, a little girl with dark curls and a bright smile. And violet blue eyes. Maya's breath caught. She clicked another link. A memorial page. Celeste Marie Winters. Born April 14th. Died October 2nd. Forever 6 years old. Maya's vision blurred. April 14th. She pulled up Iris's birth certificate on her phone with shaking hands. Iris Celeste Reyes. Born April 14th. The same birthday. The room spun. No. This was insane. This was impossible. But Maya's mind was already racing back. 7 years ago. Chicago. She'd been 22, working hospitality at an upscale hotel. There'd been a conference. A foundation gala. She'd been assigned to the VIP hospitality suite. A man had arrived late. Late 20s. Devastatingly handsome. Radiating a grief so profound she'd felt it across the room. They'd talked. About loss. His sister had died, he'd said. He was wrestling with the anniversary. About loneliness. About the unbearable weight of being young and already broken. He'd introduced himself as Alexander. 2 wounded people seeking comfort in the darkness. 1 night of shared vulnerability. He was gone by morning. No note. No number. No last name. 6 weeks later, Maya had stared at a positive pregnancy test, her entire world tilting. She'd tried to find him. God, she'd tried. But all she had was a first name and a hotel. Eventually, she'd stopped searching. Convinced herself it was better this way. That she could do this alone. And she had. For 5 years, she'd raised Iris alone. Loved her. Provided for her. Never knowing. Never suspecting. That the man who'd given her a daughter was the same man who'd just given her a train ride. Julian Winters. Who went by his middle name back then. Alexander. Who had no idea. No idea that the little girl in the photo on Maya's phone was his daughter. No idea that she'd been born on his dead sister's birthday. No idea that she had Celeste's eyes. Maya's hands shook so badly she had to set the laptop aside. She looked at Iris, sleeping peacefully. At her daughter's face, so innocent, so unaware of the storm about to break. And Maya knew, with absolute certainty, that she had to tell him. Because this wasn't just her secret to keep anymore. This was Julian's daughter. And he deserved to know. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat on the floor of the motel room, laptop screen glowing in the darkness, staring at photos of Celeste Winters until the images burned into her retinas. Every photo confirmed what her heart already knew. The shape of Iris's smile. The way she tilted her head when she was curious. The fearless energy that radiated from her even in stillness. It was all there. In Celeste. In Julian's descriptions. And those eyes. Maya looked at her sleeping daughter, then back at the screen. Side by side, the resemblance was undeniable. At 3 a.m, Maya finally closed the laptop. Her hands were shaking. Her chest felt like it was caving in. She had two choices. Walk away. Pretend she'd never made the connection. Raise Iris alone like she'd been doing. Keep Julian Winters as nothing more than a kind stranger who'd helped her on a train. Or tell him the truth. Tell him that 7 years ago, on the anniversary of his sister's death, he'd sought comfort in the arms of a stranger. And that stranger had given him a daughter. A daughter born on Celeste's birthday. A daughter with Celeste's eyes. Maya pulled Julian's business card from her wallet. The one with his personal number written on the back. Her thumb hovered over her phone screen. What kind of person keeps this secret? What kind of person destroys someone's entire world? Because that's what this would do. She knew it with certainty. Julian had spent 23 years grieving his sister. Had built an entire foundation in her memory. Had dedicated his life to saving other people's children because he couldn't save her. And now Maya was going to tell him that Celeste hadn't left him. Not completely. That she'd come back. In the form of a 5-year-old girl with violet blue eyes who loved dinosaurs and dandelions and her mother more than anything in the world. Maya's vision blurred with tears. She set the phone down. Pressed her fist to her mouth to keep from sobbing and waking Iris. By the time dawn broke over Boston, Maya had made her decision. She would tell him. Not because it was easy. Not because she wanted to. But because Iris deserved to know her father. And Julian deserved to know he had a daughter. Even if it destroyed them both in the process. Maya waited until mid-morning. After Iris had eaten breakfast. After she'd settled her daughter in front of cartoons with strict instructions not to open the door for anyone. She found Mrs. Chen, the older woman who'd checked in 2 doors down. A grandmother type with kind eyes and sensible shoes. "I have an appointment," Maya said, hating the lie but unable to speak the truth. "Could you possibly watch Iris for an hour? I'll pay you." Mrs. Chen waved her hand dismissively. "I don't want your money, honey. I'll sit with her. You go do what you need to do." Maya's throat tightened. "Thank you." She kissed Iris goodbye, promised she'd be back soon, and stepped out into the Boston morning. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. As she dialed the number Julian had written on the back of his card. It rang once. Twice. Then his voice. Smooth. Slightly surprised. "Maya." Just hearing him say her name made her want to hang up. To run. To pretend this wasn't happening. But she forced the words out. "Hi. I need to see you." A pause. "Is everything all right? Is Iris?" "She's fine." Maya's voice cracked. "I just need to talk to you. In person. Please." Another pause. She could almost hear him thinking, analyzing, trying to read between the lines. "Of course. Where are you?" Maya gave him the address of a coffee shop she'd looked up. Neutral ground. Public. Somewhere she couldn't completely fall apart. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Julian said. The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone. At her reflection in the screen. 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, she would tell Julian Winters that he was a father. And nothing would ever be the same again. The coffee shop was small and quiet. Morning rush had passed. Only a few people sat scattered at tables, typing on laptops or reading newspapers. Maya ordered a coffee she didn't want and sat in a booth by the window. She wrapped her hands around the cup to keep them from shaking. 18 minutes later, the bell above the door chimed. Julian walked in. He was dressed more casually than on the train. Dark jeans. A grey sweater that made his amber eyes even more striking. But his face was etched with concern. He spotted her immediately and crossed the room in long strides. Maya. He slid into the booth across from her. What's wrong? She couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. The words she'd rehearsed all night had evaporated. Julian reached across the table. His hand hovered near hers, not quite touching. Talk to me. Maya forced herself to meet his eyes. 7 years ago. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I was working at a hotel in Chicago. Julian's brow furrowed in confusion. There was a gala. A foundation event. Maya continued, each word feeling like glass in her throat. A man came to the hospitality suite late. We talked. About grief. About loss. About his sister who'd died. She watched recognition flicker across Julian's face. Watched his expression shift from confusion to something else. Something that looked like dawning horror. He told me his name was Alexander. Maya's hands tightened around her coffee cup. We spent one night together. Just one. And then he was gone. Julian had gone completely still. His face had drained of color. 6 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. The silence that followed was deafening. Around them, the coffee shop continued its normal rhythms. The espresso machine hissed. Someone laughed at a nearby table. Traffic hummed outside the window. But in their booth, the world had stopped. Maya. Julian's voice was hoarse. Are you saying? I tried to find you. Maya interrupted, tears streaming down her face now. I only knew Alexander. I only knew the hotel. I looked for months. But there were too many people at that event. Too many dead ends. Eventually I had to accept that I was going to raise her alone. Julian's hands were braced on the table, knuckles white. Her. Maya pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She opened Iris's birth certificate. Slid the phone across the table. Julian stared at the screen. Iris Celeste Reyes. Born April 14th. His lips moved soundlessly as he read the date. Once. Twice. 3 times. That's Celeste's birthday. His voice broke on his sister's name. I know. Maya whispered. I didn't know when I named her. I chose Celeste because it was beautiful. Because it felt right. I had no idea. Julian looked up at her. His amber eyes were swimming with tears. Are you certain she's mine? Maya nodded. There was no one else. You were the only. She couldn't finish. Julian's breathing had become ragged. He ran his hands through his hair, destroying its careful styling. This isn't, I don't. He stood abruptly. The chair scraped against the floor. Several people looked over. Julian paced to the window. Stared out at the street. His shoulders were rigid, his hands clenched into fists. Maya waited. Letting him process. Letting him feel whatever he needed to feel. When he finally turned back to her, his face was a battlefield of emotions. Shock. Disbelief. Anger. Grief. Wonder. For 5 years. His voice was raw. For 5 years I've had a daughter and I didn't know. Maya flinched. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If I'd known how to find you. Julian held up a hand. Cutting her off. Not angry. Just overwhelmed. He returned to the booth, sinking into the seat like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. Show me. He said quietly. Show me a picture. Maya's hands trembled as she pulled up a recent photo. Iris at the park last month, before everything fell apart. Grinning at the camera. Eyes bright and alive. She handed Julian the phone. He took it. Zoomed in on Iris's face. On her eyes. And Maya watched the exact moment he saw it. Oh my God. His whisper was broken. She has Celeste's eyes. Yes. Julian stared at the photo for a long time. His thumb traced the outline of Iris's face on the screen. Gentle. Reverent. When he finally looked up, tears were streaming down his face. I've missed 5 years of her life. Maya's chest cracked open. I know. First steps. First words. Birthdays. Julian's voice was thick with grief. All of it. Gone. I'm sorry. Maya said again, helplessly. I'm so sorry. Julian set the phone down carefully, like it was made of glass. He pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes. The silence stretched. Painful. Heavy. Finally, Julian lowered his hands. His eyes were red-rimmed, but his voice was steady. I want to meet her. Maya's breath caught. Okay. Really meet her. Julian continued. Not as some friend of yours. As her father. Maya nodded. Yes. Of course. But we need to do this carefully. She doesn't know. She thinks her father is just someone who wasn't around. How do you want to do this? Julian asked. Maya had been thinking about this all night. Slow. We start slow. You spend time with her. Let her get to know you. And when she's ready, when we're both sure she can handle it, we tell her the truth. Julian was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Okay. When can I see her? Maya checked her phone. She's at the motel with a neighbor watching her. We could. Now. Julian said. I want to see her now. Maya hesitated. Julian, maybe we should wait. Give you time to process. I've already waited 5 years. Julian's voice was firm but not unkind. I don't want to wait another minute. Maya looked into his eyes and saw desperation there. The same desperation she'd felt when she was fighting to get Iris back. She understood. Okay. She said softly. Let's go. The drive to the motel was silent. Julian's driver had been waiting outside. If the man was surprised to see Maya again, he didn't show it. Maya sat in the back seat, Julian beside her. The space between them felt charged. Electric. This is a lot. Julian said finally. His voice was quiet. I'm trying to process. But my brain can't seem to catch up. Maya nodded. I know. I've had less than 24 hours myself. Julian turned to look at her. Why did you tell me? You could have kept this secret. Raised her alone. I never would have known. Maya met his gaze. Because it's not just my secret to keep. Iris deserves to know her father. And you deserve to know you have a daughter. Even if it complicates your life. Even if it destroys it. Maya said simply. Julian's expression softened. Something in his eyes shifted. You're a good mother. Maya's throat tightened. I'm trying to be. The car pulled up to the motel. Maya's stomach twisted with nerves. She's 5. Maya said as they walked to the door. She's smart. Curious. She asks a lot of questions. And she loves dinosaurs. Julian's lips curved in a ghost of a smile. I remember. Triceratops. Right. Maya unlocked the door. Mrs. Chen was sitting on the bed with Iris, playing cards. Iris looked up. Mama. She scrambled off the bed and ran to Maya, wrapping her arms around her waist. Hi, baby. Maya smoothed Iris's hair. Did you have fun with Mrs. Chen? Iris nodded enthusiastically. She taught me how to play Go Fish. That's wonderful. Maya glanced at Mrs. Chen, who was gathering her things. Thank you so much. Anytime, dear. Mrs. Chen said. She glanced at Julian with open curiosity but didn't comment. After she left, Iris turned her attention to Julian. Who's that? She asked, tilting her head. Maya's heart hammered. This is Julian. Remember I told you about him. The friend who helped me get to Boston. Iris studied Julian with the unself-conscious directness of a 5-year-old. You're really tall. Julian crouched down so he was at her eye level. I am. And in that moment, with Julian looking directly into Iris's face, Maya saw him see it. The resemblance. The eyes. The unmistakable truth. Julian's breath hitched. His hands trembled. Do you like dinosaurs? Iris asked. Julian's voice was rough with emotion. I do. What's your favorite? Triceratops. Iris said confidently. They have 3 horns and a big shield thing on their head. For protection. That's a great choice. Julian said. Mine is Velociraptor. Iris's eyes widened with approval. That's a good one. They're really smart. And fast. Just like you. Julian said softly. Iris giggled. And just like that, they were talking. About dinosaurs. About the colors Iris liked. About the stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was a baby. Maya watched from the edge of the bed, her heart breaking and healing simultaneously. Because this was her daughter, meeting her father for the first time. And neither of them knew it yet. Julian stayed for 2 hours. He sat on the floor with Iris, coloring in her dinosaur coloring book. He listened with rapt attention as she explained the difference between herbivores and carnivores. He laughed when she did a roaring impression of a T-Rex. And through it all, Maya saw him memorizing her. The way she wrinkled her nose when she concentrated. The way she hummed while she colored. The way she unconsciously twirled a strand of hair around her finger. All the little things he'd missed. Eventually, Iris started to yawn. The excitement of the morning catching up to her. Someone's getting sleepy. Maya said gently. I'm not tired. Iris protested, even as her eyes drooped. How about a nap? Maya suggested. And then when you wake up, we can get ice cream. Iris perked up at that. Okay. She climbed onto the bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Maya pulled the blanket over her. Will Julian be here when I wake up? Iris asked. Maya glanced at Julian, who looked like someone had struck him. Not this time, sweetheart. Maya said. But I'm sure you'll see him again soon. Iris looked at Julian. Promise. Julian's voice was thick. I promise. Satisfied, Iris closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep. Maya and Julian stepped outside the motel room, closing the door softly behind them. The afternoon sun was bright. Traffic hummed on the nearby street. The world continued, oblivious to the fact that everything had just changed. Julian leaned against the railing, staring at nothing. His hands gripped the metal like it was the only thing keeping him upright. She's perfect, he said finally. Maya nodded. Yes. I can't believe, he broke off. Ran a hand over his face. I spent 2 hours with my daughter and she has no idea who I am. We'll tell her, Maya said. When the time is right. When is that? Julian's voice was raw. How do you tell a 5-year-old that her entire life just changed? Carefully, Maya said. Together. Julian turned to look at her. His amber eyes were red-rimmed. Exhausted. But there was something else there now. Something that looked like determination. I want to help, he said. With everything. The motel, your job, whatever you need. Maya stiffened. Julian. I'm not trying to control anything. Julian said quickly. I'm not trying to take her from you. He exhaled sharply. I want to be part of her life. However that looks. Maya studied him. Saw the sincerity in his face. The desperation. The job offer at Beacon Media. She said slowly. Is it still on the table? Julian blinked, surprised by the subject change. Yes. Of course. I'll take it, Maya said. Not as charity. As an opportunity I've earned. But I'll need time to find childcare. To get settled. I can help with that too. Julian said immediately. The foundation has partnerships with some excellent daycare programs. I can make some calls. Maya wanted to refuse. Wanted to insist she could do it all herself. But the truth was, she couldn't. Not anymore. This wasn't just her and Iris against the world now. This was something bigger. More complicated. This was a family trying to figure out how to exist. Okay. She said finally. But we do this right. No throwing money at the problem. No making Iris's life unrecognizable. She needs stability. Consistency. Julian nodded. Whatever you need. And I need you to understand. Maya's voice was firm. I'm her mother. I've been her whole world for 5 years. I won't let her feel like she's being replaced or pushed aside. I would never. Julian said. Maya, you've done an incredible job. I'm not here to take over. I'm here to. He paused, searching for the right words. To be her father. Maya finished softly. Julian's eyes glistened. Yes. Then we'll figure it out, Maya said. Together. Over the next 2 weeks, Julian became a constant presence in their lives. He helped Maya find a modest apartment in a safe neighborhood. 2 bedrooms. Nothing extravagant, but clean and secure. He connected her with the hiring manager at Beacon Media. Maya went through the interview process like any other candidate. And when she got the job, it was because of her writing samples and her determination, not because of Julian's influence. Or at least, that's what Maya chose to believe. Julian visited almost every day. Sometimes for an hour. Sometimes for the whole afternoon. He and Iris developed a routine. They'd go to the park. Feed the ducks. Get ice cream. Visit the aquarium. And through it all, Maya watched her daughter fall in love with this man who was still a stranger to her. But not to Maya. Because the more time they spent together, the more Maya remembered that night 7 years ago. The way Julian had listened to her talk about her dreams. The way he'd looked at her like she mattered. The way he'd made her feel safe in a moment when her world had felt unbearably lonely. He was the same man now. Just older. More guarded. Carrying even more grief than he had back then. But underneath it all, he was still Alexander. Still the broken boy seeking comfort in the darkness. And Maya, God help her, was starting to care about him all over again. 3 weeks after the revelation, Maya's phone rang late at night. She was sitting on the couch in her new apartment, reviewing an article draft for work. Iris had been asleep for hours. The caller ID showed Julian's name. She answered. Hey. Is everything okay? There was a long pause. Then Julian's voice, rough and broken. I can't stop thinking about her. Maya set her laptop aside. I know. Every time I close my eyes, I see all the things I missed. Julian continued. Her first laugh. Her first steps. The first time she said Mama. And I know I can never get those back. But Maya, it's killing me. Maya's chest tightened. Where are you? Home. Are you alone? Yes. Maya made a decision. Give me your address. I'm coming over. You don't have to. Julian. Her voice was firm. Give me your address. He did. Maya called Mrs. Chen, who'd become something of a fixture in their lives. The older woman agreed to come sit with Iris. 20 minutes later, Maya was standing outside Julian's building in the Back Bay. It was exactly what she'd expected. Historic brownstone. Elegant lobby. Doorman who greeted her politely. Julian's apartment was on the top floor. He opened the door before she could knock. His hair was disheveled. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. His eyes were red-rimmed. He looked devastated. Maya stepped inside without a word. The apartment was beautiful. High ceilings. Hardwood floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. But it felt empty. Cold. Julian closed the door. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called. It's late and you have work tomorrow, Anne. Stop. Maya said gently. She guided him to the couch. Sat beside him. Talk to me. Julian exhaled shakily. Today was Celeste's birthday. Maya's heart cracked. Oh, Julian. She would have been 29. He stared at his hands. I always spend this day at her grave. Talking to her. Telling her about the foundation. About the kids we've helped. It's my way of. He broke off. Keeping her alive. Maya finished softly. Julian nodded. But today, I couldn't stop thinking about Iris. About the fact that they share a birthday. About how Celeste died at 6 and Iris is 5, Anne. His voice shattered. Maya didn't think. She just pulled him into her arms. Julian collapsed against her. His shoulders shook with silent sobs. He buried his face in her shoulder and finally let himself break. Maya held him. Smoothed his hair. Whispered soothing nonsense the way she did with Iris after a nightmare. I'm so sorry. Julian choked out. I'm sorry. I shouldn't. You're allowed to grieve. Maya said firmly. You're allowed to feel this. I thought I'd dealt with it. Julian pulled back, wiping his eyes roughly. I thought after 23 years, I'd made peace with losing her. But now you have Iris, Maya said. And it's bringing everything back. Julian nodded miserably. Is that wrong? Is it wrong that I look at our daughter and see my sister? No. Maya cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Julian, Iris was born on Celeste's birthday. She has her eyes. That's not coincidence. That's the universe giving you a gift. Some gift. Julian's laugh was bitter. A daughter I didn't know existed. 5 years I can never get back. You're right, Maya said. You can't get those 5 years back. But you have now. You have the chance to be her father. To watch her grow up. To be there for all the moments that matter from here forward. What if I'm terrible at it? Julian whispered. What if I let her down? You won't. How do you know? Because. Maya's voice was steady. I've watched you with her. I've seen the way you look at her. Like she's the most precious thing in the world. That's what makes a good parent. Not perfection. Just love. Julian's eyes searched hers. You really believe that? I know it. They sat in silence for a moment. The city lights twinkled beyond the windows. Somewhere below, a siren wailed. Maya, Julian said quietly. Why are you really here? Because you needed someone. Maya said simply. And I. She stopped. You what? Julian prompted gently. Maya took a breath. I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning. To feel like the weight of everything is too much. And I didn't want you to be alone with that. Julian's expression softened. Thank you. Another silence. But this one felt different. Charged. Julian's gaze dropped to Maya's lips. Then back to her eyes. We shouldn't. Maya whispered. I know. Julian's voice was rough. But neither of them moved. The kiss, when it came, was soft. Tentative. A question. Maya answered it. Her hands slid into Julian's hair. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. And for a moment, they were just two broken people seeking comfort in the darkness. Just like 7 years ago. Except this time, when Maya pulled back, breathless and overwhelmed, Julian didn't let her go. This time, he pressed his forehead against hers and whispered, Stay. And Maya, God help her, did. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. Julian's apartment. The kiss. The way he'd looked at her like she was saving his life. The way they'd fallen into bed, seeking comfort in each other's bodies the same way they had 7 years ago. Except this time, it meant something. This time, they both knew exactly who the other person was. Maya turned her head. Julian was still asleep beside her, one arm thrown across his eyes. His chest rose and fell with steady breaths. In sleep, the lines of grief and stress had smoothed from his face. He looked younger. Almost peaceful. Maya's phone buzzed on the nightstand. She grabbed it, heart pounding. A text from Mrs. Chen. Morning, dear. Iris is still sleeping. Take your time. Maya exhaled in relief. She glanced at the clock. 6:30 in the morning. She should leave. Should get back before Iris woke up. Should pretend last night hadn't happened. But Julian's arm snaked around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. Don't. His voice was sleep rough. Please. Maya's resistance crumbled. She let herself melt into his warmth. Are we making a mistake? She whispered. Julian was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I don't know. Probably. But I can't bring myself to care. Julian. Maya. He turned her to face him. His amber eyes were serious. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not expecting anything. But I need you to know. This wasn't just comfort. Not for me. Maya's breath caught. What was it then? I don't know yet. Julian admitted. But I'd like to find out. If you're willing. Maya thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. They barely knew each other. They had a daughter to think about. The power imbalance. The complexity. But then she thought about the way Julian looked at Iris. The way he'd held Maya last night like she was precious. The way he'd kissed her like she mattered. Okay. She whispered. But we take this slow. We figure out the parent thing first. Iris comes before anything else. Agreed. Julian said. And if this doesn't work out, then we're still her parents. Julian finished. And we figure out how to co-parent like adults. Maya nodded. She could work with that. Julian kissed her forehead. Soft. Reverent. Thank you. For what? For telling me. For giving me a chance to know her. For being here last night. Maya's throat tightened. You don't have to thank me. I do. Julian said. Because you could have walked away. You could have kept this secret. And instead, you gave me the greatest gift anyone's ever given me. Our daughter. Our daughter. Julian agreed. Over the next month, they found a rhythm. Maya started her job at Beacon Media. The work was challenging but fulfilling. She was writing again. Using her brain. Remembering who she was before survival became her only identity. Iris started at a daycare program connected to Julian's foundation. She loved it. Made friends. Came home every day chattering about what she'd learned. And Julian became a fixture in their lives in a way that felt both natural and surreal. He picked Iris up from daycare twice a week. Took her to the park. Helped with dinner. He and Maya were careful. They didn't show affection in front of Iris. Didn't want to confuse her before they'd figured out what they were doing. But late at night, after Iris was asleep, Julian would come over. Or Maya would go to his place. And they'd talk. About their childhoods. Their fears. Their dreams. They'd make love slowly, learning each other's bodies. Finding comfort in the connection. And sometimes, they'd just hold each other. Two people who'd been alone for so long finally finding someone who understood. But the unspoken question hung between them. When do we tell Iris? The conversation happened on a Saturday morning. Maya and Julian were in her kitchen, making pancakes. Iris was in the living room, watching cartoons. Julian flipped a pancake. We need to talk. Maya's stomach tightened. Okay. About Iris. Julian set the spatula down. About telling her. Maya had been expecting this. Dreading it. I know. She's going to start asking questions. Julian said. She already asks why I'm around so much. Why we spend so much time together. What do you want to tell her? Maya asked. The truth. Julian's voice was firm. That I'm her father. That I didn't know she existed but now I do. That I want to be part of her life. She's 5, Julian. Maya said. How do we explain this in a way she'll understand? Together. Julian said. We sit her down together. We keep it simple. We answer her questions honestly. Maya's hands trembled. What if she's angry? What if she doesn't understand why you weren't there before? Then we deal with it. Julian said. But Maya, we can't keep this from her forever. She deserves to know. Maya knew he was right. But the thought of that conversation terrified her. Because once they told Iris, everything would change. There would be no going back. Okay. She said finally. But not today. Soon. When we're both ready. Julian nodded. Soon. The conversation happened 2 weeks later. Not because they planned it. But because Iris forced their hand. They were at the park. The three of them. It was a beautiful autumn afternoon. Leaves falling in shades of gold and red. Iris was on the swings. Julian was pushing her. Maya sat on a nearby bench, watching them. Higher. Iris shrieked with delight. Julian laughed. Any higher and you'll fly away. Good. Iris said. Then I can see everything. Julian slowed the swing gradually. When Iris's feet touched the ground, she hopped off and ran to the slide. But then she stopped. Turned around. Julian, she said. Her tone was serious. Yeah, sweetheart. Why don't you live with us? The question hit like a physical blow. Julian glanced at Maya, who'd gone pale. Well, Julian crouched down to Iris's level. That's a good question. All my friends' daddies live with them. Iris continued. Are you my daddy? The world stopped. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might explode. Julian looked at her. A silent question. Now. Maya nodded. Stood. Walked over to them on shaking legs. Baby, she said gently. Come sit with us for a minute. We need to talk about something important. Iris's eyes widened. Am I in trouble? No. Julian said quickly. Not at all. They sat on a bench together. Iris between them. Her small legs swinging. Iris. Maya took a deep breath. You know how you've asked about your daddy before? Iris nodded. You said he lived far away. I did say that. Maya said. And at the time, I thought it was true. But I was wrong. Iris frowned. What do you mean? What your mom means. Julian said softly. Is that I'm your father? Silence. Iris looked at Julian. Then at Maya. Then back at Julian. Like my real daddy? She asked. Yes. Julian's voice was thick with emotion. Your real daddy. Iris tilted her head. Why didn't you live with us before? Maya and Julian exchanged glances. How did they explain this? Because. Maya said carefully. Julian and I didn't know each other very well before you were born. And after you were born, I couldn't find him to tell him about you. So he didn't know you existed. Iris processed this. You didn't know I was alive. No. Julian said. And I'm so sorry about that. Because if I had known, I would have been there from the very beginning. Do you love me? Iris asked. Small. Vulnerable. Julian's eyes filled with tears. So much. More than you can possibly imagine. Iris was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Can I still call you Julian? Or do I have to call you Daddy? Julian's laugh was watery. You can call me whatever feels right. Iris nodded seriously. Okay. I think I'll call you Julian Daddy. Julian Daddy. Julian repeated. His voice breaking. I like that. Iris seemed satisfied with this. She hopped off the bench. Can I go back to the slide now? Maya laughed through her tears. Yes, baby. Iris ran off, apparently completely unbothered by the revelation that had just turned her world upside down. Maya and Julian sat in stunned silence. That's it. Maya said finally. That's her whole reaction. Julian wiped his eyes. I think so. She's 5. Maya said. She just accepts things. Julian turned to look at her. His expression was full of wonder and grief and overwhelming love. We have a daughter. Yes. Maya said. We do. Julian took her hand. Laced their fingers together. Thank you. For what? For this. For her. For giving me a second chance. Maya squeezed his hand. You would have done the same. Julian Daddy. Iris's voice rang out from the playground. Come push me again. Julian stood. Coming, sweetheart. He jogged toward the swings. And Maya watched her daughter's father, the man she was slowly falling in love with, lift Iris onto the swing and push her toward the sky. And for the first time in 5 years, Maya felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. The next 6 months were a blur. Maya's career at Beacon Media took off. She was writing feature pieces, getting bylines, making a name for herself. Julian slowly integrated into their lives. He didn't push, didn't demand, just showed up. Consistently, reliably. He attended Iris's kindergarten graduation, taught her to ride a bike, read her bedtime stories. And somewhere along the way, the lines between co-parenting and something more began to blur. Julian started staying over more often. In the guest room at first. But eventually, in Maya's bed. They were careful. didn't want to confuse Iris. But Iris, in the way of perceptive children, already knew. One morning, she climbed into Maya's bed where both Maya and Julian were still sleeping. "Are you guys getting married?" she asked. Maya's eyes flew open. "What? Sarah's mom and dad are married." Iris continued. "And they sleep in the same bed. You guys sleep in the same bed sometimes. So, are you getting married?" Julian, to his credit, didn't panic. "We're still figuring things out, sweetheart. But you love each other, right?" Iris pressed. Maya and Julian looked at each other. They hadn't said those words yet. Hadn't defined what they were. But looking into Julian's amber eyes, Maya knew. "Yes," she said softly. "We love each other." Julian's expression transformed. "You do. I do. I love you too," Julian said, his voice rough with emotion. Iris wrinkled her nose. "Gross." Then she hopped off the bed. "Can we have pancakes now?" Maya laughed. "Yes, baby. We can have pancakes." After Iris left the room, Julian pulled Maya close. "Did you mean that?" he asked. "Every word." Julian kissed her. Slow and deep and full of promise. "Then we should probably talk." "About what?" "About the fact that I want this." Julian gestured around. "You. Iris. This life. I want to make it official." Maya's heart raced. "Julian. I'm not saying we have to get married tomorrow," Julian said quickly. "But Maya, I want a future with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to be there for every milestone with Iris. I want us to be a family. A real family." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I want that too." Yeah. Julian grinned. A real, genuine, unguarded smile. "Then I guess we're doing this." "I guess we are." 1 year after Maya had fallen asleep on a stranger's shoulder on a train, she stood in the ballroom of a historic Boston hotel. The Celeste Foundation's annual gala. She was wearing a dress Julian had insisted on buying her. Elegant. Midnight blue. The kind of dress she'd never imagined owning. Iris was beside her in a matching miniature version, twirling to make the skirt spin out. Julian was at the podium, addressing the crowd of donors and supporters. "A year ago," he said, "I thought I knew what this foundation was about. I thought it was about honoring the past. About keeping my sister's memory alive by helping other families." He paused. His eyes found Maya and Iris in the crowd. "But I've learned something. It's not just about the past. It's about the future. It's about believing that even when we think we've lost everything, even when we think it's too late, the universe might have other plans." Applause rippled through the room. "Someone very wise once told me that strength isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. And this year, I've watched my family do exactly that." Julian's voice grew thick. "I've watched my daughter grow from a scared little girl who'd lost everything into a confident kindergartner who believes she can do anything. I've watched her mother rebuild her life from the ground up with nothing but determination and love." He looked directly at Maya. "And I've learned that second chances are real. But only if we're brave enough to reach for them." Maya's vision blurred with tears. "So tonight," Julian continued, "I want to announce something. The Celeste Foundation is expanding. We're launching a new initiative specifically focused on reuniting families affected by housing instability. Because I've seen firsthand what happens when we give people not just money, but opportunity. When we invest in their potential." More applause. "And," Julian's smile was soft, "I'd like to introduce the person who will be heading this initiative. A journalist who knows what it's like to fight for your child. Who knows what it's like to rebuild from nothing. Maya Reyes." The spotlight swung to Maya. She stood frozen for a moment. Then Iris tugged her hand. "Go, Mama. You can do it." Maya made her way to the stage on shaking legs. Julian met her halfway, taking her hand. When she reached the podium, she looked out at the sea of faces. Wealthy donors. Foundation board members. People who occupied a world she'd never imagined being part of. "Thank you," she said. her voice steadier than she expected. A year ago, I was standing in a train station with $117 to my name, terrified I was going to lose my daughter forever. She glanced at Julian. And then a stranger offered me a seat on a train. No strings. Just kindness. That one act of kindness changed everything. Because it reminded me that we're not alone in this world. That sometimes, when we're at our lowest, someone reaches out a hand. And all we have to do is be brave enough to take it. Maya's voice grew stronger. This initiative isn't about handouts. It's about giving families the tools they need to rebuild. Stable housing, job training, childcare support. All the things that can mean the difference between surviving and thriving. Because every parent deserves the chance to be there for their child. Every child deserves to grow up feeling safe and loved. And every family deserves a second chance. The applause was thunderous. Julian squeezed her hand. Iris jumped up and down in the front row, clapping harder than anyone. And as Maya looked out at this room full of people who wanted to help, who believed in second chances, she felt something settle in her chest. This was real. This life. This family. All of it. Real. That night, after the gala, after they'd tucked Iris into bed in Julian's brownstone where they'd officially moved in 2 months ago, Maya and Julian stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The Boston skyline glittered in the darkness. Somewhere below, the city hummed with life. Julian wrapped his arms around Maya from behind. She leaned into his warmth. "I can't believe this is my life," she said softly. "Believe it." Julian murmured against her hair. "A year ago, I was sleeping on couches, working double shifts, terrified every single day. And now I have a career I love, a daughter who's thriving, a partner who—" She stopped. Julian turned her to face him. "A partner who what?" Maya smiled. "Who bought matching dresses for me and our daughter." Julian laughed. "They looked beautiful. We did, didn't we? You always do." They swayed gently to music only they could hear. "Maya," Julian said after a moment, "there's something I've been wanting to ask you." He pulled back, reached into his pocket, and then he was kneeling. Maya's hands flew to her mouth. "I know we said we weren't rushing," Julian said. "But Maya, I don't want to wait anymore. I've already missed 5 years with Iris. I don't want to miss another moment of this life with you." Tears streamed down Maya's face. "You are the strongest, most incredible person I've ever met." Julian continued. "You've given me a daughter, a family, a reason to believe in hope again. And I want to spend the rest of my life showing you and Iris how much you mean to me." He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. "Maya Reyes, will you marry me?" Maya dropped to her knees in front of him, cupped his face in her hands. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." Julian's laugh was joyful and broken and beautiful. He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Maya rested her forehead against his. "I love you," she said. "So much. I love you too." They sat there on the balcony, wrapped in each other's arms, as the city sparkled below. And Maya thought about the train ride that had changed everything. About the moment she'd fallen asleep on a stranger's shoulder. About violet blue eyes and impossible coincidences and the way the universe sometimes rewrites your story when you least expect it. She thought about Celeste, the little girl who died too young but whose spirit lived on in Iris's fearless energy and devastating smile. And she thought about second chances. About how they arrive in the most unexpected ways. In the kindness of strangers. In the truth we're brave enough to speak. In the love we're willing to fight for. Mama. Maya and Julian turned. Iris stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Her hair was mussed from sleep. "I had a bad dream." Julian stood, scooping her up. "Come here, sweetheart." Iris wrapped her arms around his neck. Then she noticed the ring on Maya's finger. "Mama, why are you wearing sparkles?" Maya and Julian exchanged glances. "Because," Julian said. Your mama and I are getting married. Iris's eyes widened. Really? Really? Maya confirmed. Iris considered this. Then she nodded seriously. Okay, good. Because I like it when we're all together. Us too, baby. Maya said. Us too. They went inside together. The three of them. A family born from loss and loneliness and one impossible night 7 years ago. Julian put Iris back to bed. Maya watched from the doorway as he tucked the blanket around their daughter. As he smoothed her hair. As he whispered that she was safe and loved and nothing would ever hurt her. And when Iris's breathing evened out in sleep, Julian stood and took Maya's hand. They walked to their bedroom. Their home. Their life. And as Maya fell asleep in Julian's arms, she thought about train rides and violet blue eyes and the way the universe had brought them all together. She thought about how one act of kindness from a stranger had led to this. To everything. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that sometimes the best stories are the ones we never see coming. The ones that start with exhaustion and desperation and a shoulder to lean on. The ones that end with love. Epilogue. 2 years later. The kitchen was chaos. Iris, now 7, was explaining something about plate tectonics to her baby brother with the seriousness of a college professor. 6-month-old Alexander Julian Winters babbled his response from his high chair, waving a piece of banana enthusiastically. Julian was at the stove, making pancakes while simultaneously reviewing foundation documents on his tablet. And Maya stood in the doorway, coffee in hand, watching her family. Her family. The word still felt surreal sometimes. Iris looked up and grinned. Mama, did you know that tectonic plates move about as fast as your fingernails grow? I did not know that. Maya said. That's amazing. Julian glanced over his shoulder. Good morning, wife. Maya's heart still skipped at that word. Wife. Good morning, husband. She crossed the room and kissed him. Soft. Familiar. Alexander shrieked with delight and threw his banana. Iris dissolved into giggles. And in that moment, in that beautiful, chaotic, ordinary moment, Maya felt it. Complete and utter happiness. Later that day, she would go to work at the foundation, where she now served as Director of Family Services. Julian would attend board meetings and make decisions about funding and expansions. Iris would go to school and learn about dinosaurs and plate tectonics and everything in between. And Alexander would continue being the most joyful, loud baby in existence. But right now, in this kitchen filled with laughter and love and the smell of pancakes, they were just a family. Not perfect. Never perfect. But real. And whole. And theirs. Maya caught Julian's eye across the kitchen. He smiled. That soft, private smile reserved just for her. And she knew he was thinking the same thing she was. That train ride. That impossible, miraculous train ride. It had given them everything. Not because the universe owed them anything, but because sometimes, when you're brave enough to accept kindness from a stranger, when you're honest enough to speak difficult truths, when you're strong enough to fight for the people you love, sometimes the universe rewards you. With second chances. With family. With love. With everything. The end. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in this story. If Maya and Julian's journey reminded you that hope is real, that second chances exist, that love can find its way even through impossible circumstances, leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts. Share your own stories of unexpected connections and second chances. And if you want more stories that will restore your faith in the beautiful unpredictability of life, subscribe to Tales of Desire with Mr. Walker. Hit that notification bell. Because every story we tell here is designed to remind you of one simple truth. Your own second chance might be closer than you think. Sometimes all it takes is falling asleep on a stranger's shoulder, and waking up to find that your whole life has changed. Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep believing in the impossible. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the impossible becomes your reality.